I'm Patricia Thornton, the editor of the special issue of the China Quarterly on the CCP centenary, and I'm talking now with Chris Mittelstadt, who's the author of Rebuilding Authority, the party's relationship with its grassroots. Chris is also a lecturer in contemporary Chinese studies at the University of Oxford's China Center. So Chris, thank you for talking with me about your article. Can you just summarize some of the findings for us briefly?
Yes, thank you for having me. So the article itself was guided by the question of how the Chinese Communist Party relates to its grassroots and relates to the vast majority of its grassroots organizations and members. So what I looked at was, in a sentence, the ritualization of grassroots control, grassroots governance, and the way that the party center relates to its grassroots organizations. So, and this has been a major change, and if there was one finding of this article, was that this change has taken place towards a more standardized, a more ritualized form of or a relationship with between the center and its grassroots.
So when you say it's changed, has this been a change under Xi Jinping or a change since the Mao era? When did the change begin?
Well, the change came in the last roughly 20 years. So you had this kind of emergence of these, what I examine in the article, thematic party days that were regularized, were standardized, especially since 2013, 2014. And then were inserted into party regulations in 2018, and where you have the localities really bringing forward and publishing plans to really standardize everyday conduct of these party organizations. So thematic party days are supposed to happen every month, so monthly party days, and you have roughly 4.1, 4.2 something party branches in China, which gives you every month 4 point whatever thematic party days, right? So, and most all of party members are organized within party branches. So this gives you really a wealth of resources here to look at and analyze how they are being conducted, how they relate to the party and other areas. Per se, and this has gotten much more intense over the last couple of years. So here is really, both in terms of quantity and in terms of quality, a change that has taken place.
But not necessarily under Xi Jinping. I mean, are you saying that this process was sort of already underway under Hu Jintao or even Jiang Zemin?
Certainly under Hu Jintao, under Jiang Zemin. I mean, the party has always been lamenting, and the top leadership has always been lamenting that the grassroots are unorganized, that the grassroots events are not conducted very well, that they are devoid of any meaning, etc. So many leaders have tried to counteract this, have tried to push back against this, but the pushback in terms of ritualization, as I argue in the article, really only happened properly, one might say, under Xi Jinping.
So I have an article from a few years ago during the Hu Jintao era in which party branches, local party branches, were organizing speed dating events. Now, this was not a thematic party day. You're talking about something different. How is a special event like that different from a thematic party day?
Well, and I did cite your article.
All right, just for the record.
Just for the record, it's in there.
Oh. Thank you, Chris.
But the difference here is that party branches, local party branches, are not really concerned with these kind of, as they would then be described, lax events devoid of any ideological content. They're not doing these type of events anymore, or less and less so. This certainly has to do something with the general trend towards ideological conformity over the last years. The trend that also resulted in the promulgation of party rules and a much tighter grip on the grassroots organizations and on the party itself, right? So here you have, if we have two sides of the coin, one side would obviously be anti-corruption and the policing of deviations, behavioral deviations at the grassroots, and then on the other side of the coin, you have these organizational rules, which result in a much tighter organization. And as a result of that, you would have the emergence of these thematic party days that are really, and here's the key difference, aiming at reproducing a kind of ideology that is promulgated at the center. And obviously, as part of this ideology, you would not necessarily have speed dating or pillow fights anymore, as you described in your article, which is kind of a pity, maybe, but that's the way it is.
So, what are some of the kinds of thematic party days that you've been looking at so your data sets, your data set goes back 10 years or just to the beginning of the Xi Jinping era, or?
Yes, roughly. So I wanted obviously to look at events that are categorized in the same way, that are comparable. So I'm looking specifically at thematic party days. And first mentions of those go back to Hu Jintao, 2008, even some 2006. And also, they are not really necessarily happening just in one area, like Beijing. So I'm focusing on Beijing in this article out of convenience, but they happen throughout the entire country. And you have them going back to, I found a party day from 1998, for example. So they go back a long time, but they then proliferate at some point in 2010, 2011, 2012. And yeah, so what I'm looking at here is really how these party days, what they do. So what I argue is they reproduce ideology, they make ideology material. So whatever they are doing, if it is, for example, the oath, right, reaffirming the oath to the Chinese Communist Party, or mentioning certain slogans that were promulgated at the center, for example, the four consciousnesses or the four self-confidences, or now in 2019, Buang Chuxin, kind of things, or to what extent they actually comply with national campaigns. So under Xi Jinping, we've had 4 ideological campaigns, I believe, starting in 2013, 2014, 2016, I believe, and then 2019 again. So how do they actually adapt their own behavior to these campaigns? Do they actually comply? How do they comply? Because in the end, these are mere slogans. What kind of actions what kind of practices do you attach to these slogans? And so these might be very, very different. So one type might be engaging, for example, in red tourism, visiting revolutionary bases, visiting memorials, going to museums, these kind of things. So this might then be a manifestation of, or a reproduction of the party's values towards history. And is then linked to a certain interpretation of what history means and what history is. And this is especially, I guess, important building up towards the 6th plenum, of course, when the party passed the 3rd history resolution. But this is just one type of it, I guess.
So yeah, and I one of the things that I found really interesting about your article is that you talk about the latitude that the grassroots party branches have in selecting their themes and the kinds of activities that go underneath those themes. So what kinds of how much power, I suppose I should say, how much power do the grassroots party organizations have to select themes and shape these party days?
I mean, there's quite a lot. I mean, in the article, for example, I give the example of a locality which passed a plan to standardize thematic party days. So what they do, they list certain activities from which then you can choose. And of course, depending on where your party branch is, where it is located, if it's in a private company or SOE or somewhere else. So depending on your needs, then you would choose, like from a restaurant menu, what fits, what might be good for you, what do you want to do. And so this could be then again going to memorials, for example. Study, of course, is very important. But not just that. It goes further than that. It goes into volunteering. You know, sometimes it could be as mundane as going outside into the community and picking up trash, or propagating laws, or local regulations, or helping the elderly, and these kinds of activities.
So, and I guess one of the last questions I wanted to ask you is, one of the conclusions that you came to was that giving the grassroots party branches this kind of power to shape and maybe even tailor-made and tinker with these party theme days so that they fit the needs of the local party branch or the interests of the members at the time, causes a certain amount of fragmentation, right? So if what's interesting is you have a tension there. So from the center, you have this impetus to try to standardize these events. And then on the other hand, you seem to suggest that there is a wider variety of events that are going on that is being allowed at the grassroots. So you've said that greater fragmentation might weaken the party, but it's equally likely to strengthen it. And I just wondered if you could, that sentence in your article really stood out to me. And I was just wondering if you could say a little bit more about that. What does it mean to have greater fragmentation weakening the party? I mean, that makes sense, but it's counterintuitive to say that it might strengthen it. How does greater fragmentation strengthen the party?
Yes, so here I would think that cohesion or the ability to conduct these thematic party days in itself is to some extent enough already. So here I would not think that standardization is a binary. Yes, we have standardization, or no, we don't have standardization. It's kind of establishing a spectrum in a way, where again here is what I said before about this one locality or localities themselves. They establish these menus of themes or activities you can choose from, and as long as you choose, you reproduce some kind of value, you reproduce some kind of ideology. You will not reproduce all of it at one time. You will go through it. You will do for one party day, you will do this. For another one, you will do that, etc. But it all happens based on the shared foundation, which is the reproduction, or which is a certain ideology that is willed or put forward by the center. So here, it's fragmentation is kind of conditional in this sense. If they choose, for example, to go out and volunteer, well, this enhances the parties or these party branches and more broadly the party's relationship with the masses, with non-party members, with the outside. If they choose to study Xi Jinping's recent speech on whatever really, and because there are so many of them, then it enhances their linkage with Xi Jinping as the leader, obviously, right? Or if they look at local regulations, it enhances their link with the local provincial level or county level or whatever level party, rather than Xi Jinping and the center. Or again, and the last type of linkage is with the party itself, right? So the least common, or actually the most common event, or one of the most common events certainly is taking the oath right? So the oath is not connected to Xi Jinping. It is not connected to local level authorities. It is not connected to the masses. It's connected to the party per se. Right? So here, this enhances their relationship with the party as an organization. But whatever they choose to do, it reproduces something the party in itself values or wants to put forward, wants to promote at the grassroots, be it serving the masses, be it loyalty towards the leader, be it loyalty towards the masses, towards the party or the masses, or something else. And so to that extent, it actually helps to strengthen the party rather than weakening it.
So I assume that you saw that the Tianjin Waiban held a themed party event to study Peng Liyuan's thought, the wife of Xi Jinping's thought. So now we're getting from Xi Jinping thought to Xi Jinping's wife's thought. Did you think that was a high-level black or a low-level red themed party event?
Honestly, I have no idea. I only saw the headline. I was like, huh, that's a weird one. I haven't seen anything like it. I wouldn't, to be honest, I wouldn't pay too much attention to it unless it appears again. In any case, it's weird.
Maybe not as weird as party-themed speed dating, but still, certainly worth noting.
Yeah, let's hope it comes back.
All right, Chris, well, thank you so much. It's a really terrific article, and I really appreciated you taking the time to talk to me about it.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.